during their incarceration, making a connection with the communities, making a connection with the victims of crime and with their own families as well, and develop the process that we can touch base on all areas of their lives. Because they're searching for life's meaning, they're searching for significance, they're searching for acceptance. Turn out to be, unfortunately, that they are sitting now with a sentence. But for now, many of them indicated if they were outside today, they would have been dead already. So technically speaking, without being arrogant, they are at a better place for their offending behavior to be corrected. And that's why we encourage for them not even to commit any crime during their incarceration, which is challenging, but we trust that they will continue to focus on their changed lives. And when we ask them the question, what do you hope to get out of this process, this restorative justice process? The response was to be a better person, to be a better father, because they realized that the challenge of men incarcerated and even females incarcerated, there is a 95% of no loving father figure as a role model. Now that they are incarcerated, realize that their children is now growing up fatherless. They want to be better fathers. And it's not starting when they go out. It's supposed to start here inside already. To be a better son to my mom. You see here, they don't even say, and to my dad, because there's a disconnection with all respect. To be a success, to understand myself, never to make the same mistakes again, to be a better person in my community, restoration for my family, to be more forgiving, to have a better relationship with my community. My desire is to go to the community to share about my drugs and obviously the impact of my drugs and the damage that I caused because of my drugs. To gain wisdom and to gain forgiveness, to be a better role model to my children, and to get forgiveness as well. That is what they hope to get out of this process, and we will keep these hopes and we will journey with them. We're going to spend about 100 hours with your loved ones in this process before there will be a comprehensive report. But the report is just going to indicate what did we touch base with. But there was fears. Although we realize that many people live fearless, but there was fears. When I asked the victim to forgive me, I will not get it. That's what they fear. What if I say I'm sorry and they don't forgive me? That restorative justice will not help. But yesterday we discussed with them a page and a half why restorative justice will not help them. And they realize that the ball is on their court. And if this process is not going to help them, they have a list of things why it's not helping. It's in their manual as well. That the community won't accept me. That's real. There's families that won't accept them. What do? They need to work harder on that because people will always have them under suspicion. To open up the wounds, because many of them just put plasters on that. They run to drugs, they run to gangsterism. They don't want to touch base with their true feelings. And it came out this week. And if any one of you want to just shout out what word, how do you feel for just open up that wounds? What word will you use? What word will you shout out? Can I hear? good, relief, come again, helpful. It was painful, sad. And we were dealing with these things. Don't want the community to reject me. That is their fear. It will be sad if the community further reject him. There is so many rejection when people come out of a correctional facility. I fear to take revenge. That's there. There are unfortunately many issues that happened in the past, and some of them moved around with gangsters, and their own brother turned against them. They just stand in court and hear the state prosecutor call on Johnny Claassen, and he thought, what is Johnny doing here? Johnny is my brother. Johnny said, I'm not going to sink with you. And he gave the judge a statement in a witness to get your loved one be found guilty. And now he wants to go take revenge. We were dealing with that. And we will continue to deal with that. It's a waste to have a qualification, somebody said. And I fear that, it's really a waste to think that people say, I must still get qualifications behind bars. But it's not a waste. Some of them are in the school already here. Education is important. If I left the gang and come out, they will take revenge. We had it yesterday. We had it in the week. That fear, if I move out, even with a number inside, the 28, 26, and 27, high-ranking guys, it's not easy just for them to stand up and say, I'm out. We have the evidence of those who did it. Some of you in the room that did it before. But that fear, I want to, but what if they take revenge? They still need to be matured enough and stand their ground for their own decisions, although the fear is there. Many people ask, what is crime? We discussed this in the week, and the bottom line is that crime equals disrespect, and crime is also equal irresponsibility. There's no excuse for crime. There's no excuse for crime, and we were dealing with that. Then, the restorative justice process is also looking at the victims of crime, and the victims is very important. And we find in many processes like this, there is a focus on me, myself, and I, and their families, and their children. I want to go out because my children is now living without a father. My mother is sick, and I need to go out to go and work for my mother. But you know what, with all respect, over 26 years, almost 40% will go and do what their desire was. Others go back to continue with that lifestyle of the past. And this process is not just focusing on them and their needs alone, but what about the victims? What about those people whose loved ones was taken away forever? What about rape victims? What about those who went through an armed robbery? And that's why this process is also looking at that, because there is a ripple effect of crime. The first circle is the immediate victims and their family. The second circle, can I ask, were you affected by their crime? Yes or no? Family? Yes or no? So you are in the second circle, you were also affected by their crime. The community is affected by their crime. And then also the police that had to go to the crime scenes, the forensics, the ambulance staff, the photos being taken at the crime scenes. There are more people affected by this other than just them that are serving a sentence. And our country, I must say, is moving in a direction at least where there is a second chance for people being incarcerated. Even our life sentence offenders get a second chance. And even if someone received 9 life sentences, there is a second chance. But the victims and the victims' families must be recognized. That's how important it is. The Minister of Justice and Correctional Services made it clear, like previous ministers made it clear, the importance of the outreach to victims and their families before the parole boards can consider to place them on parole. And those who were placed on parole and the victims or the families didn't know, the minister revoked that parole and that person had to come back to prison and then need to work through the impact that the victims experience. This is how serious it is. And so we taught them that victims' experiences, empowerment, disempowerment, this is what victims experience. Loss of safety, disrespect, victims won't trust easy, they will always be suspicious. We can't blame them. And the loss of control, feeling vulnerable and helpless, unable to control their own feelings. They were confronted on Tuesday with 4 rape victims standing in front of them, telling them the impact of that rape that took place 34 years ago, that took place 23 years ago, and everybody gave the years of the impact of that rape on their lives, even during their own marriage now. And offenders thought, and this is what they said, we thought that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever time it is, we thought when we walked away there, it just stopped there. They realized it didn't stop there. There is a ripple effect for many years. And they connected to that. We had a lady whose father was shot with a crossbow. She showed all the pictures that his skull was even in court. She showed them the picture. They didn't even know his skull was in the court with the arrow in. And they thought, it's just killing and walking away, never realized the impact of that crime. And that's why people will not forget. This lady that spoke on Tuesday also, on the 15th of February, 2 days ago, and 2 days before she came to speak, it was his father's 31st year that he was murdered. It's a very challenging time for them during February. They won't forget that. But at least they move on. The emotions is they felt violated. People felt violated, fearful, shocked, upset, humiliated, frustrated, angry, bitter, sad. And what do victims want? And we're going to ask you some question also now. Victims want truthful answers. Hulle soek die waarheid. En die waarheid is nie, ek is in die gang en ek was onder plig nie. Die waarheid is nie, ek was gedrak of ek was onder die invloed van alcohol. That's not what they want. They don't want that kind of truth. They want what is behind you as a person with such behavior. They want the truth. Victims want to tell their story. Victims want offenders to take responsibility, and they want restitution, and also they want to experience remorse, because the judge said, you've got no remorse, so we give you the maximum sentence for this type of crime. Can I ask you as a family, is there any one of you, you can just raise your hand, you don't have to say anything now, but you can just raise your hand. Is there any one of you that was also affected by your loved one's crime and behavior that are looking for truthful answers? If so, do you mind to raise your hand? Who of you want truthful answers today? There's a hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody else? 6, 7. Okay, gentlemen, are you ready to give them the truthful answers? Yes. Hey? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, we can ask Mr. Sanders to let you go back to the center if you're not ready. There's your family want truthful answers as well. Okay? This is not a name and shame process. This is the reality how all of us in this room, including the correctional officials in uniform, are also affected by the crime and criminal behavior. So people want the truth, and that is where we want to be. But we also know that there is reactions of some victims that victims want to take revenge. And therefore, we want also you to share this with your communities and also encourage victims of crime to make contact with us, because here in every correctional facility, we can let them sit around the table with their victims and their victims' family to discuss the effects of the crime. We had hundreds and hundreds of that already before. Or some victims will never forget, and they will also never forgive. Now, if you look at this slide, looks very full, but as I shared with you the process, what do we do with him to get them to this point in terms of, number one, in terms of them realizing what victims experience when they gone. And we had to bring that under the attention. That's what happened over the last 6 days. What we also need to help them is emotions, the emotions of the victims. And I think some of them also, like many others, they thought they have no feelings. They've got it. But they were so into their behavior, like fearlessness, aggressiveness, sensation-seeking, that they even walk around with names in their community to let them be the macho guy. And because of that, they cut themselves off emotionally to commit this crime. And we had to bring them back to that. And we sense that they themselves are also not feeling good about their behavior. So we had to prepare them for that. We can't just let a victim walk in here and confront them and they're not even ready to understand the bigger picture. Otherwise, they're just going to make excuses. And this is what we need to help them with. That is why it is more effective, as we experience over 26 years, for me to tell them what victims is going through. In this slide, it was better for me to say, let victims come here. That's not related to their crime. Let them come here and share. And that's where many of them, when they stand up and speak, they refer to what they heard from the victims. And that helped them to consider, to take responsibility for their crime. It helped them to call on people to hold them accountable. It helped them to make confessions. And the confessions that we heard, even by a plain and simple question, how many of you pleaded not guilty in court, but you know you're guilty? They made that confessions. How many of you committed crime and you got away with it and you continue with crime? They made that confessions. And then we start helping them, looking at the bigger picture, what next? And we were teaching them to look at 4 basic core values: trust, respect, honesty, and integrity. Can you get the coffee ready, please, in the next 10 minutes? Thank you. Trust, respect, honesty, and integrity. And they need all 4 as basics. There's more, but they need 4. You can't just say you're an honest person, but you're not a person of integrity. And we told them the story of the couple that walked into Kentucky. And they ordered their Kentucky, and they got their Kentucky, and they get their chains, and they walk out. And the man looked at the chains, and he said to the girl next to him, he said, "Hi, babe, they gave us too much chains." Some of them said, "It's my luck for the day. I'm not going to give it back. It's her mistake." But the couple decided, no, we're going to be honest. We're going to give the money back. And they went back. And the lady was very shocked. She ran to the back and she came with the manager, said, "Sir, I gave these people too much change, so honest people." The manager ran to the back. Everybody thought he's going to give them extra Kentucky. He came back with a camera and he said, "Can you stand under the logo of Kentucky? I want to take a couple of pictures, put it around in Kentucky that people can see they're still honest people." The man said to the manager, Sir, put away your camera. This is not my wife." Okay. So they need the 4 basics. They need that. Sinatemba, first Alexander used his own life. Alexander, come stand here that they can at least see you. Can you run? I don't know if you can run, but if you can run quickly. Alexander is now released 15 years, 16, 19 years release. You can still see a huge 28 in his neck. He was a tough 28 year behind bars. Tough gangster in Ocean View. But in this process, he jikijela. He turned around. And now he's 19 years out and he's working full-time with us. Every day behind bars. If I see him in the office, I chase him out and say, "You belong to prison." So we're using, and he used his life on Wednesday to show them the right priorities. That you need to prioritize now different. He's a family man today. He's got a beautiful wife with 4 children. And he said her name is Anne, and he's her own man. Okay, thank you, Alexander. All right, so that's where we are. I don't know where Sinatemba, but Sinatemba also created a mess for them to let them know how they messed up their own lives and how their lives was messed up. Don't worry, it is 5 by 5 that going to the toilet. The officers will handle that. And don't worry if you remind me now of a funeral that I did in Menenberg of an American gangster, and there was hard livings around there, everybody. And the moment one person stand up, everybody look around. You can be calm here. They are beautiful people here. Okay, so right, that's where we are. So on Thursday we also spoke about responsibility, and Friday we looked at how do you feel about crime? when it comes to remorse, when it comes to emotions? Are you so dead inside that you will just do it again? You realize now, even under pressure that you were, and you committed this crime, how will it be different now? What is your remorse? And the remorse is an action of turning away from your evil. And we found that it's difficult, but they will be confronted about that all the time. And then there was a forgiveness ceremony that my wife did with them yesterday to let them know if they also don't forgive and let go, they will still be in that prison of unforgiveness. So that's where we are in this process.